Good morning, and welcome to the Muscatine County Board of Supervisors meeting. Today is Monday, February 22nd, 2021, 9 a.m. This first item on the agenda is to review the agenda.
Move to approve as presented.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, seconded by Nathan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. Next item is discussion and possible action to approve claims dated February 22nd, 2021 in the amount of $345,242.53.
Move approval.
Motion by Jeff, seconded by Scott. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. Okay, the next item is to open a public hearing and take comments on a confinement feeding operation and construction permit application from Lucky's LLC, Ryan O'Toole in section 29 of the 76th Township. And this is the time where the public are able to actually speak on this. And so if you are on or unmuted, you'll have the opportunity to be able to come up to the podium or come online and be able to issue your name, state your name and your address and your either questions, comments, or concerns around the item. This is the time now for the public to be able to issue your comments on that. So if anybody would like to start, go ahead. We have some here in public.
Pardon?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
We'll do those, maybe we'll do this first on the phone.
Oh, there's someone on the line?
Yep, no, go
Yeah,
ahead,
there's
go
a
ahead.
number of people on the phone.
We
but we'll
don't
go
know how many are on there.
in chambers right now.
Oh, okay, thank you. County Board of Supervisors, my name is Janice Knoll. I live at 2566 Burlington Road, Left, Iowa. I am a property owner in 76 Township and a township trustee. I am expressing my feelings against the CAFO, or Concentrated Animal Feeding Operation, being proposed by Lucky LLC, Ryan O'Toole, and located in 76 Township. I do not consider this as a positive addition to the 76 Township area. There will be few, if any, benefits to the community. My main objections are the number of hogs to be housed in 2 buildings, 1,984 animal units, or 4,960 head of finishing swine. According to the Sierra Club, the amount of manure that will be produced from the above number hogs will generate more waste than people living in one of Iowa's small county seat towns. The odors can be smelled 3 miles away and at times up to 5 to 6 miles. There will be 2 large manure pits. How much waste will these pits hold? How long will the untreated waste stay in the pits? Will the waste be treated? If the manure is not treated, it can contain toxic substances or pathogens such as E. coli, Salmonella, and MRSA, which causes illnesses in humans. How will the waste be disposed? Will it be spread on farmland and where? How much and at what rate? Will it be treated? If it is spread on farmland, what is to prevent untreatable manure from running off the fields into Iowa's rivers, streams, and lakes, with nitrates leaching into private wells? What is the plan to dispose of dead pigs? Will they be thrown in a metal bin or out next to the building to decompose? How often will the dead carcasses be removed? How much water will be used by these 2 facilities? Will it be pulling from the groundwater that supplies private wells? Has there been an impact study pertaining to water aquifers available in the township and how they will be affected? I have checked the Magic site and do not find that Lucky LLC or Ryan O'Toole owns any land in 76 Township where the proposed CAFOs are to be built. How can he ask for permits without owning any land? I understand that you will only be making a recommendation to approve or disapprove the application, but I would encourage you to vote to disapprove it. We want Muscatine County to be known for fresh, clean air and water, unlike Washington County, that is listed as one of the top 10 counties in Iowa for the density of CAFOs. Thank you.
Thank you, Janice. Is there anyone else?
I would wanna note, Santos, I would wanna note that anyone that had sent us an email, we will put those into our record. We have noted through the auditor, so those will be a part of our official record today. And also, I believe Eric provided a permit or a petition that was submitted with I don't know, 200 signatures, something like that.
Correct, we have the petition as far as that as well.
That's
too.
part of our minutes today.
So
Okay.
those that sent emails, we
Okay,
will
take the mask
definitely.
off, please.
Go ahead, yes.
Go ahead.
you're fine.
Good morning to the board. My name is Chad Furlong. I'm the owner of Arden Creek Vineyard and Winery. Pleasure to be here today with you. I have with me the co-founder Diane Furlong, our winemaker in the corner, Josh Klassen, and you heard from Jan. She's a tough act to follow, though. I'll tell you what, just in terms of laying out the case. I want to start, I have two goals for my conversation today. One is to paint a picture for you of our biggest risk that we see with this operation. And then two, just to give you a little voice to why we have this concern, to help you think about your recommendation. So first, I want you just to imagine it's a Sunday afternoon, you've come out to Arden Creek. I'm not gonna presume anyone here has been out there, but it's a beautiful vista, gorgeous rural Iowa countryside. You just got a bottle of Red 52, and you're having those first drinks. A little acoustic music's playing on the veranda out back, and this waif of pig manure comes across your nose. How long do you think you stay there? Do you go buy another bottle of wine? How long is it before you go on Facebook and tell about your experience? You can see quickly the spread of just one instance, what it would do to our business. So just wanted to paint that picture of Arden Creek, many of you know as a vineyard, which is agriculture ourselves. It's retail, we sell right out of our spot there. We're a manufacturer and we're an event center all rolled into one. Now, it's not lost on us that this is a hot topic. Feeding operations are the darling of the state legislature. It is clearly the vehicle they've chosen to be the economic driver for the state. And I get it, we're an ag state. That's not an issue here. It's about having balance in our growth. We need renewable energy in the state. We need wind. We need tourism. We need wine operations like ourselves. So this is about competing interests and how do you balance competing interests? And what I would point you to, if you think about your voice really, really matters, even though the state says local officials like yourselves only have the ability to recommend, your voice really does matter to the DNR. And here's what I'd like you to think about when you cast your vote. One is just common sense. And some of this, as I go through the 3 points, is just common sense. But let's look to the common nuisance law of the state. I know that this is much more than just your common quality of life nuisance issue for our state. This is about a viable commercial operation a couple miles away from the proposed site. And if you look at the 3 predominant factors that they've used historically to decide nuisance law, which is very germane here, look at the first one, right? It's suitability. Is the operation going in suitable for Iowa? Well, of course it is. Iowa's the biggest hog state in the nation, so of course Iowa's a place suitable for this operation. However, not in this particular case because of the proximity to another viable operation. So I would say suitability does not work in this particular case. Site selection needs to be rethought. Second one would be the impact, right? When you think about the compensatory measures that would look at that you give an operation by another one coming in, clearly the hardship for us would be huge. We estimate we have about 10,000 visitors to the winery every year. 10,000 people come across that ground. That's 10,000 people that won't be coming when the pig manure comes across. We estimate that between 25 and 33% of our revenue, our annual revenue, would be removed by this through our retail sales, through our events, through our weddings we host. That would not occur. You know it wouldn't occur. So that is definitely a hardship that we would incur there. The last one, I'd say, the last third of the 3 bullet points beyond suitability and impact is incumbency. This is where the common sense comes in. Imagine what were you doing in 2008. This woman over here and her husband were starting a winery, 2008, and think about the effort and time for 13 years to build the business that's there today. And literally, and within weeks, it could be shut down if this come across our front door. So the incumbency is just clear here. We've been in operation for 13 years. And so I ask you to take those factors into consideration when you vote today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chad. Is there anyone else? Go ahead.
Can I just stand right here for a second, real quick?
Sure.
My name's Diane Furlong. I am one of the founders of Arden Creek. And I just wanted to correct my stepson. We started planting grapes in 2004.
Where was I those 4 years? I mean, that's all.
You were in Maine.
Okay. Is there anyone here in the public, in the chambers, that would like to speak?
My name is Rachel Renner. I work for Knee Deep Solutions in Washington, and we were the ones that were hired by Mr. O'Toole to prepare the paperwork. And I just wanted to point out for you guys some of the questions that were presented today about the fields that were listed in the manure application agreements and the manure management plan. A lot of the questions that were asked today have been answered with the master matrix, which is what the state of Iowa uses to answer those questions. We have maps in the manure management plan where the manure is planning to be applied. Mr. O'Toole has chosen to inject all manure. That becomes a condition of his permit. He has to use that, which limits the smell from any manure application from traveling across the ground because it's injected underneath the soil. He's chosen to use a feeding and watering system that reduces water wastage. It's an expense for him too, for the animals to waste water, and so he's using a system that's very efficient and doing a good job of utilizing the natural resources. Also in the master matrix, he's chosen to use an upgraded compost facility. Ryan's actually designed one that's going to be a contained system, and it's going to compost the animals, and they're not just going to be, discarded in a place that would cause any kind of nuisance for the neighbors. And also, manure application typically with farmers is done late fall. You don't want to do it when it's nice outside, when people would be outside enjoying wine, because the weather actually changes the chemicals in the fertilizer, and then it's not available for your crops. So it's typically done late fall so that you can save all the nutrients for the crop usage. So I just wanted to make sure that you guys knew that a lot of the questions that were asked today are addressed in the master matrix, and that Ryan has gone above and beyond to choose the things that would be most friendly with his neighbors.
Rachel, the master matrix that you mentioned with all the potential answered questions to what you're saying,
Yes.
how could somebody publicly access that information? So for example, if Mr. Furlong wanted to see the injection, the depth, the water use permits that you're talking about, how can they communicate those items if they're actually available, or have that not been presented yet to be able to be public?
So before we even submit the DNR, we gave a copy to Muscatine County.
Mhm.
And so that you can find it here in the Muscatine County, I think it's the auditor's office, usually
It's the administration office.
administration office. Okay. They're also public record at the Iowa DNR, so you can get them from either one of those sources. They're public.
And did I read in the application that Mr. O'Toole has agreed to put up some kind of a screening, vegetative screening for possible odor? I thought I saw Eric in the app said something about a tree or a windrow or something being put.
That's a recommendation that Eric made
Okay,
Prior to
in the
if it
letter,
gets
draft
approved.
letter for you guys.
okay.
There are, I do have a couple of maps that show like where the manure application fields are and where the barns are versus where the winery is. And there are several timber areas that are completely separating. So there's a lot of natural vegetative buffer, but Mr. O'Toole has been willing to speak to the neighbors, and we're always, as farmers, we're always trying to be good neighbors. So it's something that like open communication is a very good option for that.
And this is approximately 2.5 miles
A little over.
from 2.9 or something like that from the Arden Creek. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello?
Hello, is there anyone here in the public here that would like to still speak on this before we go into the online calls?
We have one more in chamber here, another.
Yeah, we will get to you. So right now, we're allowing the public here in the general chambers to speak.
My name is Ryan O'Toole. I
Thank
live
you.
at 1789 250th Street in Lentz, Iowa. My family has been farming in the 76th Township for, I believe, more than 5 generations. As it was mentioned, I don't own any land yet. This facility is being placed on my father's property. The intention is to give me the opportunity to materially participate in the agriculture business. I want to come back and overseas and other places around the country for quite a while. Coming back to live on the farm, raising my sons in the Let's community, be a part of Iowa agriculture and the history that comes with it is the reason I've chosen this project, in that it gives a reasonable degree of success, reasonable prospects of success, excuse me. And it would voice again the reiteration of what Rachel said, in that if there is anything I can do to support other businesses in the area, talking about when manure is applied, the methods of application, and we're doing the best we can now to reduce any impacts. As the knowledge improves over time, people will find better ways to do it. I will be absolutely open to making those improvements along the way. So,
Ryan, does your family own any other hog confinements?
we do not.
Okay.
There are some distant relatives who have lots which are less than a mile from the winery, but they are not part of my immediate family.
Okay. So the master plan that you have, is that something that you can share with those individuals that are requesting the information?
I don't see why not.
Okay.
And I would again mention site selection was done such that this is as far away as we could possibly be from the winery. I myself am a customer of the winery on occasion. I enjoy the site as well, and I've caught a whiff of some of the other ag operations. There's other pig barns that are much closer in the cattle operation. I believe the Furlongs themselves have some cattle, which that's not an infrequent smell in rural Iowa. I don't believe it's going to destroy the ambiance. I've smelled it before and I kept drinking wine, so thank you for your time.
Thank you,
Thank you, Ryan.
Mr. O'Toole. Okay, we can, if there's no one else here in chambers that would like to speak, we will go on to the online. If you could please state your name, your address, and your issues, questions, or concerns.
Yes, my name's Lori Bayshore. I live on 260th Street. I do have two households that live right across the field from what's being proposed. I have two wells that I'm concerned about. I have the smell I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about the roads, the way the roads are going to be taken over with semis and stuff. I also have a concern that I have one of the reasons we're in the country is because I have two that have asthma, and I have a grandson that has asthma very bad, and then I have a daughter. So I'm concerned about that too. And I have a lot of concerns that need to be looked at from the DNR and the roads and the air quality and everything else. So I hope they look at it carefully. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Anyone else online?
Yes, I'd like to take a turn.
Who's that?
Good morning. My name is Freedom Malik Roberts. I am the Renewable Energy Advocate and Humane Policy Volunteer for Muscatine County. I live at 1836 Hershey Avenue in Muscatine, and I'm also a Resource Enhancement and Protection Delegate. And it's not too often that I can wear all of my hats at once. That's just how wide-sweeping a problem CAFOs are. Now, I appreciate that there were many people who spoke on a lot of issues already today that I was going to touch on, so I do have a list, but I won't go into too much detail of ones that have already been spoken about. But some things that have not yet been mentioned are the reduction in property value to the adjacent land up to 40%. There is a known link between CAFOs and superbugs, antibiotic-resistant bacteria. As of 2016, around 69% of all medically important antibiotics in the nation were sold to be fed to farmed animals. The executive director of the Food Safety and Suitability Center explained it like this, quote, "The combination of frequent antibiotic use and the conditions the animals are raised in creates a hospitable environment for superbugs to develop and proliferate. The drugs can kill off weaker bacteria in the animal's digestive tract, leaving a few hardy survivors to multiply. These bacteria, as well as certain antibiotic residues, are excreted in manure, which is the perfect medium for antibiotic-resistant bacteria to grow. Over time, you wind up with colonies of almost indestructible superbugs, unquote. Nearly twice as many people are dying from drug-resistant infections in the United States than previously thought, according to a report published last year by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. That comes out to 35,000 deaths a year and nearly 3 million illnesses, according to this report. So, as a resident of the county, as a lover of Arden Creek wines, I am very much so against putting a CAFO anywhere near here. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Freedom. Is there anyone else online?
Excuse me, this is Lori Bayshore again.
Yes, Lori.
I also wanted to, thank you for listening to me again. I also wanted to bring out that I wrote Nathan a letter from John and Lori Bayshore too. He should have received it. So it has our concerns written down about
We have it noted, yeah.
our property going down in value and stuff because of this too. So just lots of small things that we need some answers before we're comfortable with this going through. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lori. And just for those online, we did receive quite a few emails and calls that we will be able to note into correspondence and also be able to submit into our minutes as far as what we received. Those that were also signed the petition, we did also get those. So those are duly noted and will be part of the minutes prior to the decision that is being made. Anyone else online?
This is Chris Oberhaus. I have a farm at 2581 Jasper Avenue, which is 2.25 miles from the proposed site. I had a little difficulty hearing the people that are in the room there, so I apologize for that. I'm asking some questions that have already been responded to. First question is, where does Ryan live?
In Letts, I believe, in
250th Street.
250th Street.
So, if I understand it right, that's north and west of where this would be. Is that correct?
It's about straight north.
About straight
In other
north,
words,
yes.
upwind,
Yep.
based on prevailing winds. Okay. And then, secondly, do any of the supervisors live near one of these facilities?
This is Scott Sauer. I live within 1.2 miles from a open cattle feeding operation. I'm very familiar with what we're dealing with here. Yes.
Chris, this is Doug Holliday.
Okay, well, and that's, I guess, my question too. As representatives, of the county, would you want to live next to one of these things if you didn't have to? I think I wait for your answer. I'd like that on record if I could. I don't think anybody wants to live on one of these, but I would appreciate, each of you weighing in as to whether you want to live downwind from one of these things. I think everybody here is expressing the same thing. It's all well and good for someone to put an operation in, and I'm a capitalist at heart, but you are very definitely diminishing the value of other people's properties and lives by doing this.
Chris, this is Doug Holliday. I live a 1/4 mile to the east of a large hog confinement. So I live in real close proximity.
This is Jeff Sorensen. I actually live in the city of Muscatine, and I live in closer proximity to one than in this proposed siting.
This is Nathan. I live just south of Doug.
And would any of you choose to do that, given a choice?
I've lived on a farm most of my life, and I had 500 head of live hogs on my property, so it's something I've always been used to.
Yeah, this is Scott Sauer. I'm a farm kid. I've dealt with livestock all my life, so it's just part of my growing up and part of what I've done all my life.
And this is Santos.
And I do grow up on a farm, and I'm used to livestock. There's big difference between having some livestock on a farm and having a 1900 animal unit operation next door. Wouldn't you agree? Just in terms of the manure and the smell and the toxicity and the noise, the traffic, the whole thing.
Well, here's my 2 cents on that, and that is this open cattle feeding operation that I'm within 1.2 miles of. I personally think that the odor is much worse in this open cattle feeding operation than any hog confinement that I've been around, but that's just my personal opinion.
Okay.
Sure.
Thank you, Chris. Is there any other items or questions or comments that you'd like to address?
No, I believe, again, I had a little trouble hearing who it was, but the first speaker, was it Janice Knoll? I think you did an outstanding job of summarizing my views on it too. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Chris. Is there anyone else online that would like to comment?
Yes, my name is Stephanie Okerson. I live at Acorn Lane in Muscatine, so I live inside the city. However, I do know that area very familiarly. I grew up around that area. I am an avid fan of Arden Creek Winery. I've been there several times, and as Mr. Curlock pointed out, it just takes harmful review to really destroy a business, and it's a really charming and wonderful, unique, diverse business for our area. We have hundreds of cattle lots, hog confinements, feedlots, things like that in our area. We are an agricultural area, but a winery is also, and a vineyard is also an agricultural area, and I just think it's something that we only have one winery and vineyard in our county, so it needs to be preserved and protected and taken care of. I'm also concerned, as a few other people have pointed out, there are several creeks, streams, personal wells. How are we going to make sure that this pollution of the hog manure isn't going to get leached into that ground soil and that groundwater? I'm also concerned, like you, I can't remember who said it, but some of you said that you've been around cattle feedlots and things like that. I grew up on a cattle farm. I also grew up raising pigs, and in my opinion, if you're around that pig smell is far worse than any cattle lot. Pigs just naturally smell much more potent and much worse from my experience. Not to mention, there's going to be a lot of traffic. I've seen those gravel roads out there. They can't maintain unless, the county is going to put more effort into maintaining some of those roads out there. And reducing some of that traffic. So those are just some of the other things I've been thinking about. Also, do we know what the quality of life for these animals is going to be? Not to mention, is there a meat packing contract? Do we know that these pigs are going to be raised and sent somewhere, or are they just going to sit there in the lot and kind of wait or be wasted? So those are just a few concerns I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Anyone else online?
Yes. My name is Tina Bertram. I live in Davenport, Iowa. I'm a little concerned with why would you want to raise more pigs when during the epidemic, tons of them, thousands of them were slaughtered for no reason? Why do we need more?
During the epidemic, those were unusual times. I doubt we're planning on trying to continue.
Well, it's going to go on for another year, isn't it?
Well, this is just
lockdowns and stuff.
Correct, but this is just the application for that, so it would still probably be another year, maybe plus, before the foundation, the buildings, and all those things could actually be installed.
So, like the lady said, are they going to be treated fairly, or are they just going to be put in a cage
to
watch till they're slaughtered?
Yeah, and I think that gives the opportunity for more information and sharing of questions to be answered. I still think there's a lot of communication that needs to be shared, I think, amongst both sides. and we're just trying to take all that information in. So your question is noted, and we will try to find that information out.
In regards to the watershed from injecting this in the soil, if they're not injecting this in the soil, the farmer's gonna be purchasing fertilizer and applying it. So it actually replaces a lot of the fertilizers that the farmer purchases to put on their land.
Do we have a list anywhere of the hog confinement operations in the county? And their locations?
I think Eric may have that. Eric, are you online?
Yes, I am.
Eric, can you share with us a little bit of what you've been able to see up to this point? Is that still available that we can do that since we're still in public, Nancy? Can Eric speak on this? Okay.
Absolutely.
Eric, can you share with us a little bit of what you have been able to surmise from all of these things as far as what do we have, the close proximity, and your information on this?
Sure. When we get a application of this type, one that triggers the master matrix, we are really, as a county, responsible for scoring the master matrix and verifying that they meet the minimum points in total and all the subcategories to qualify for construction permit. I did do that. It does appear in my scoring of the matrix that they meet the minimum total and subcategory points. I can't rattle off all the separation distances to each and every house or business in the area, but they do meet the minimum separation distances plus some for any schools, churches, commercial businesses, to the point where they score points on the master matrix for that. Because we adopted the construction resolution, it allows us to provide comments then to the DNR and a recommendation, but ultimately, as you're well aware, this is a permit that's issued by the Iowa DNR, not Muscatine County. As far as other hog confinements, confined animal feeding operations of other types, as you know, we have chickens, turkeys, and beef cattle in this county as well. My office is ultimately the depository for manure management plans, so we do have those things on record.
And hello, this is Freedom again. I'd like to chip in with a few opinions and answers on some questions that came up after I spoke about the how do we protect surface and groundwater from these operations of such high concentration of livestock. And I mean, the short answer is it's an inevitability that eventually there's going to be a runoff, there's going to be a spill, there's going to be something. As of right now, we're currently going through a very harsh winter all across the United States, really. And when those lagoons of waste are frozen, the operators have no choice but to place the waste on the surface of the snow or the surface of the ice, which of course once then it becomes spring, it melts, it goes wherever the water goes. It's unavoidable at some point. Yeah. And then of course we get storms here in Iowa, even just a normal spring rainstorm. Those operations can flood, and that again, the water will take that waste wherever it wants, and it has been known to cause a lot of water quality problems. I believe it was the Iowa DNR put out the impaired water report already this year, and something like 75% of Iowa's surface water is impaired, meaning it's not good enough to be used for swimming, fishing, or any kind of recreation that we as Iowans, well, we pay taxes to use those public resources, the public water sources, the rivers. Those are for everyone, and operations like this impair them. It's inevitable. Mm-hmm. And the other thing I wanted to touch on that Tina was talking about from Davenport is what are known as ventilation shutdowns. And I don't want to be disgusting, but I do want to explain what that means for people on the call who don't know what that really is. When demand of pork dropped so much where it became cheaper to kill them than to keep them alive, the animals were not taken to a slaughter plant. They were kept inside these confinement buildings, which they have seen nothing else of their entire lives. The windows, and if there are windows, the doors are shut, the vents are shut, and they are left in there to cook. They are forced to stay within those pens, and they are pumped in steam. The steam from outside suffocates them, and they can't do anything about it.
So
And
Freedom,
they're left like that for hours.
Freedom, we want to try to, collaborate with both sides and try to understand both sides. So we're still trying to get all the information from Eric that has provided that. And we understand the challenges that were presented under the COVID. I believe that none of us have ever gone through that, nor has that ever happened in our past history that we understand that. So we want to try to get
The issue that this particular operation presents is that no normal farm would have the capacity to do something like that. If it was a normal, just a pig farmer with a pasture, that particular way of culling isn't possible. So that's just yet another reason why these operations shouldn't be commonplace and shouldn't be allowed here. They're just inhumane.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Freedom. So, Eric, as you mentioned before, the master matrix is owned by the county or by the DNR?
Well, I don't know who it's owned by. It
Well,
was created by the legislature some years
Okay,
ago
so-
when the Environmental Protection Commission and the DNR. It is the formula that was established for our state for facilities of 1,000 animal units or more.
Okay, and that's what, but we follow the program. The master matrix is not something the county has set up. As far as,
It's a state law.
That's correct.
it's a
That
state-
was
it's a state law,
established by the
so-
state.
The Board of Supervisors passes a resolution each year in January that says you're gonna participate in the process, which means you have an opportunity for input to the DNR. If you did not pass that resolution, then this wouldn't even come before you. You would have no say-so in it.
one of the concerns that I have is just, allowing Mr. O'Toole to share the feedback in regards to how the master matrix was answered. A lot of the questions that I think are being brought today, we probably need to be able to figure out a way that we can communicate or share that information, as Doug had mentioned in regards to, the manure being injected, how much manure, as I think Rachel had shared, there was a lot of information that they have the answers to, and I think that Janice had some questions. I know that Mr. Furlong had presented a lot of comments and questions that I think that I'd like to be able to find a way that we can communicate those items so we can have some of those questions answered. And I know that you had made a request, and I had shared that with you in regards to prior to us making the recommendation. I knew that we were getting an overwhelming amount of emails and questions, and you had made a request to the DNR on this, Eric?
Yes, because we were coming up quickly on our deadline to hold the public hearing and offer any recommendations to the DNR, I did request an extension on that deadline, and one was granted for 30 additional days. So we have 30 additional days starting Wednesday, I believe, to submit any of our comments or recommendations to the DNR.
Okay. Eric, this is Scott.
Does DNR only accept comments from the board, or can the public comment as well?
Well, I don't want to speak on behalf of the DNR. I assume as a taxpayer-funded body, they would have a mechanism for receiving comments from the public, but I don't know that they hold any kind of public hearing, such as what we're doing today, but I'm assuming that they would receive comments from the public, but I am only assuming.
Eric, this is Scott. Tell me, if in a typical situation as far as manure application, is the typical situation this manure being injected into the ground, or a previous caller talked about surface application? I'm not familiar with any surface application techniques by any of these hog operations. Can you help fill the public in on that? Can you give some insight on that?
Well, I can speak to the manure management plan that was submitted, the master matrix that was submitted for this actual application, and I believe Rachel, the consultant, touched on it. His plan and master matrix does claim points for injection and or incorporation the same day it's applied. But you're right, that modern pork production, really the only people that are actually land applying are very small producers that are not raising in confinements anymore. By and large, because of the nutrient value and the way that they want it bound to the soil, I've not seen a CAFO land apply in this county for some time. If they do, they are incorporating it with a disc or something like that same day. The type of land application that we've heard about that runs off in the spring thaws, that was my generation that I grew up on, your generation, where they went out on frozen ground and applied. You just don't see that happening today. I heard the term lagoons, storage lagoons used. We don't have storage lagoons for these. These are engineered, formed concrete pits underneath the confinement building. There are stories of disasters from out east when they used to use earthen lagoons. We just don't see those. That's not part of this plan. I couldn't take you to one in this county right now. Since I've been working here, I've not seen an earthen lagoon used for manure storage. They inject the manure in the late fall after the crops are out, but before the ground is frozen.
And a statement was made that these storage facilities are freeze and are frozen. I'm not familiar with any of that either. Are you familiar with anything like that taking place?
I mean, I don't want to say that it's not possible that if you removed all the animals and shut down the heat in the barn that something couldn't freeze, but typically it's just with the amount of aerobic activity, the conditioning of the space and the animals, I don't believe I've ever heard of the formed concrete storage area, the manure freezing it. No.
Thank you.
Chairperson, question. It was mentioned that the new deadline is March, but the date was not given. It's a Wednesday, 1 month from now. Could you state what the new deadline is for the recommendation to the PNR?
So the recommendation was requested, and it will be as of 30 days from
The 23rd?
the 23rd, Eric, is that correct?
24th.
30 days from the 24th.
Yeah, it has to.
Okay.
So the 24th was our original deadline, and we have an additional.
Yeah, the 24th was the original deadline, and
Thank you.
we had requested upon
The 26th then,
looking that there was gonna be a potential for need for more communication, and I think that's what I feel that we need to have prior to being able to make a good decision on that, but that's just my voice. I know this is a board
Do we
decision. Excuse me?
I just wondered, we still have more public comment?
Yep.
I have one more question for you, Eric, if you could, please. Could you tell us if there are, and how many there are, other feeding operations within this 2.6 miles of Arden Creek? Are there any other feeding operations at all, be it hogs or cattle or any type of major livestock raising facilities?
Certainly. However, I'm only aware of, I believe, 2 additional hog barns that would be large enough to file manure management plans, but there's multiple smaller cattle lots in the very immediate vicinity. In fact, I noticed there's cattle literally directly to the north of the vineyards itself, standing in Arden Creek the last time I was out that area. But I think as far as facilities large enough for manure management plan, I think there's 2 barns within a mile or a mile and a half.
Thank you.
It's agriculture.
Go ahead.
Yes, there are two, and they're both east of us.
They both what?
They're east,
East of them
they're
is what
east
you.
of us.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's
Okay.
talk about where the wind comes from in the summer. It comes from the southwest. I know it does, because we have weddings, and I have to put up screen sides on these big tents, because it's too windy, and they always have to go in the southwest. This hog confinement situation is southwest of us. That's why I'm so concerned.
Sure. Well, the reason I asked this question, because there's a hog operation to the northeast of you, approximately 1.5 miles. Am I correct on that?
Well, there's one on G28,
G28 and Jasper.
and then there's one on Jasper.
Yeah.
Belong to the same people.
But those two are both east of us.
And that doesn't cause an issue?
Not much. The wind just doesn't come from that direction very much. It does occasionally, but not very often.
Okay. Is there anyone else online that would like to speak or comment on this?
I mean, we shared the maps to show the facility location with the board.
Yeah, go ahead, bring them up.
So the top half with the yellow, that's actually.
I think we have it. Had it in the pack.
Yeah, you have enough to pass around there, but, yeah, we've got this map.
Eric included it with our, yeah, that's the one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have that.
Yeah, that's the one I actually, yeah, I got that one. over here.
Was in our pack.
Is there anyone else online that would like to speak or comment on this?
Yes, I'm sorry, go ahead.
This is Ron Silver, and I'm a resident in Muscatine. And I'm concerned about the containment measures, and I'm sure that you already have some information regarding it. But I was wondering as to whether or not the concrete containment that was spoken about, whether that's going to be lined, what's to prevent bacteria or microbes from leaching through the concrete. I work down at the Louisa generating station, and I know that even with concrete containment, that you can have cracks and leakage. And what kind of measures are going to be taken to ensure that you don't have anything leaching through? And what kind of testing is going to be done around that? And then I was also concerned about the saleable fertilizer. Is that tested? How often is it tested to make sure that we're not putting something that's not environmentally sound back into the ground? And then any uncontrolled effluent, what kind of penalty is there for uncontrolled effluent leaving the property? And as somebody who is concerned about the environment, I've always believed that your effluent should be discharged upstream of your influent so that you are incentivized to make sure that what's leaving your property is clean. And the penalty for any effluent should be pretty steep, because the rest of the taxpayers and those who live in the surrounding area are the ones that are going to be paying the price for it, not the people that own the business that don't even live in the county, much less the state probably. So those are some of my concerns. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Ron. We do take those questions, and we will try to see if we can get some of those questions answered. I do know that I did ask about the concrete walls, what building codes were they gonna be following? And my understanding is that Eric does have a plan that the DNR does give them certain specs that they must follow. So I do understand that that is something that is a controlled mechanism of how that is actually built. As far as it being lined and testing for leaching across the other sides, I never asked that question, but that's a good point, Ron. Anyone else online? Okay,
So I would make a motion that we close the public hearing.
okay, motion by Jeff to close the public hearing.
Second.
Seconded by Doug. This is a roll call vote to close the public hearing. How do you vote, Doug?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
I vote aye. Nathan?
Aye.
And Jeff?
Aye.
Okay, this now is 5-0. The public hearing is now closed. The next item is the discussion and possible action to approve the letter to the IDNR for the Lucky's LLC construction permit application. This is a discussion with possible action.
I'll make a motion, we approve, send a letter to approve to DNR and note the concerns and send those along with.
Okay, this is a motion by Jeff to approve,
I'd second that.
seconded by Doug. And this is now possible discussion on that. Any other discussion on these items?
My firm represents parties on both sides, so I'll be abstaining from the decision.
Okay, I'd like to mention a little bit on it. I feel that, in my view, I understand that there are still a lot of comments and questions that I think that needed to be answered. That was my thoughts looking at it, knowing that I had a lot of public input wanting to understand more of how these questions were. So I had particularly just requested that if we could delay the recommendation, but wanting to see if we could allow Mr. O'Toole to share the information, allow the public to get the answers for some of those questions. I know that Eric has been giving us a lot of information and questions that we have had that generally maybe the public doesn't see in regards to the questions that I said, well, what statutes, what codes do they follow? How is this applied? How is this understanding the distances that we had? I know that we have current locations of where the current confinement is at outside of the city limits and the distances that we have for that. So I think the big piece that I wanted to just make my point is that I wanted to try to request to see if we could delay this potentially 2 weeks for the possible action. But the current item right now is the approval, so I will vote no on this just right now for that piece.
Okay, we do that now.
Okay. Scott?
Well, like I said, I've been a farm kid all my life, and I've got a big cattle feeding operation, 1.2 miles, that is southwest of where I live. And I look at the amount of feeding operations that are in much closer proximity to the winery. And with today's oversight of these feeding operations and so on from the DNR, I'm confident that all the issues in regard to the leaching and manure management and so on and so forth are going to be addressed. I also understand that the point that Doug brought up about the manure/fertilizer value in the times of low hog prices, the manure actually has more value than the hogs do. And so I'm gonna vote in favor of this application.
Okay.
Excuse me, can I say something?
Currently, no, we've already closed the public hearing. We can't allow you to speak on this now. So currently, the vote is Jeff.
We haven't voted, we
I'm
just, we
sorry.
have a motion.
We had a
and
motion, I'm
second.
sorry. A motion and a second. And we have now the item with what, as presented, as for Jeff to make the recommendation to present it to the DNR as presented in regards to this, to submit what we have currently. All those in favor is to present as presented by Jeff,
Aye.
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 and I vote no.
And I abstain.
Okay, so that is
3,
currently
1, 1.
3, 1, and 1 on this possible action to approve. Okay, the next item on the agenda is to have the public hearing on the proposed FYI 21-22 Muscatine County property tax dollars for general county services, rural county services. This is a roll call vote for the public hearing.
We're in
Just
a
to open
public
it?
hearing
To roll, yep,
for proposed maximum county levy.
yep.
I'm sorry, who's abstaining? It's hard to tell just by voice.
Nathan Mather, I abstain as my firm represents parties on both sides. It would be a conflict of interest.
This is just a supplement to Tyvie's.
Yeah.
We're reducing.
Do you have the sheet for Tybee? I need to add a couple.
I don't have it.
Who's got Tybee sheet?
I put it in.
Oh, could I get it back? I need to add. I forgot a couple.
From 1063 to 1058.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the public hearing for the proposed FYI 21-22 county property tax dollars for general county services. Is there anyone on the public to be able to speak on the property tax dollar?
Or maybe we should have Sherry, because people can't see what we have, maybe we should have her
Okay.
just go through a brief
Sherry.
overview of the proposal.
That's a good point. Thank you, Jeff.
Right, and this is the first of 2 hearings we're required to have for the budget starting last fiscal year. This public hearing just talks about the property tax dollars levied. On March 8th, we'll have a public hearing to approve the county budget. But with what we're expecting, the tax levy rate will be reduced by 5 cents per $1,000 evaluation. So I guess I don't know if you want any more specifics than that, but that's what we're doing. We're looking at
And
what we're
Sherry,
letting for taxes.
and Sherry, I had mentioned to board members this morning, after our mental health meeting, we have some budget surplus projected and so that this is the maximum mental health levy that we're allowed to levy, and the board is meeting in the next couple of weeks. There's a chance that they may recommend Muscatine reduce their levy further to stay within the fund balance requirements of the legislation. I will oppose that because I think it's a short-sighted solution and it puts us into trouble in years 2024 where we will not be able to pay for services for our residents, but it's how the legislation is written today.
We've been there before.
We've been
It
there.
did swing back and it was a problem for us, but
Yeah.
yeah, we can't control what they do.
So as it stands, you're looking at it's looking at a 5 cent per thousand reduction for the county tax for
Yes.
the taxpayer.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So I didn't hear any members of the public.
Is there anyone on the public for that? All right.
So I would make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, seconded by Nathan. Any further discussion? Hearing none. There's a roll call vote. Doug?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
I vote aye. Nathan?
Aye.
And Jeff?
Aye.
5-0. Okay. Public hearing is now closed for that. The next item is discussion and possible action to approve the resolution 02-22-21-01 and the approval for FY 21-22 maximum property tax dollars.
So moved.
Motion by Jeff,
Second.
seconded by Scott. Any further discussion? There's a roll call vote. Doug, how do you vote?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
I vote aye. Nathan?
Aye.
And Jeff?
Aye.
Okay, action approved for the resolution, 5-0. Okay, the next item is the discussion and possible action for the approved ordinance of number 2-22-21-01 in rezoning of approximately 2.7 acres in the Fruitland Township from R1 residential to C District Commercial on the third and final reading.
So moved.
So motion by Scott, seconded by Jeff, any further discussion on that? Hearing none, this is a roll call vote. Doug?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
I vote aye. Nathan?
Aye.
And Jeff?
Aye.
Okay, ordinance approves 5-0. The next item is items with the county engineer, Keith White.
Good morning.
Morning.
We have 4 utility permits this morning, and they're all with Alliant Energy, Interstate Power and Light of Lisbon, Iowa. The first is they're replacing overhead electric on 122nd Street from Highway 38 west to Moscow Road with plowed underground. And that also includes replacing overhead electric on Moscow Road from 122nd Street north to Highway 6 with underground. And that's the first one. Second one is replacing overhead electric on North Isett from 1265 to 1183 North Isett with plowed underground. Third one is replacing overhead electric service with underground on 122nd Street at house numbers 2525 and 2533. And the last one, they're replacing insulators and transformers in Moscow. And there are a few poles that will have to be replaced in the existing locations essentially, and some electrical services will be replaced with board services. So mostly going underground with most of this.
I'll move to approve.
Motion by Jeff, seconded by Doug. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Opposed? 5-0. Any other items?
Just wanted to mention, last week, Friday afternoon actually, the Salvation Army, and they said the children had chosen whom they wanted to show gratitude to with blessing bags, so they brought blessing bags for all of our drivers.
Oh, that's very nice.
Appreciated.
I'd like to say that the county roads, the snow's back as far as it's humanly possible. And I've gotten comments from the public said, are we expecting a really bad storm? I said, no, we're just getting that snow away so the moisture's as far away from the road as we can get it.
Yeah, plus, you know, if you leave that windrow up by the road, you get an inch and you're drifting, so.
Unknown caller.
Yeah, I've said this every week, and your crew does a great job with what's been thrown at it, you know, it's, your department has done a great service to the residents and the users of the roads of the county, in my opinion.
I will tell you, we've burned through a year and a half's worth of salt already and still going, and need to understand just a little thin ice event like this uses just as much material.
Yes.
6 inches of snow, so
Yeah.
well, we're still in pretty good shape there, but you know, you're gonna see claims coming through, and you're gonna see that materials line item go way up. Because we've used a lot of, you know, part of it we were used, I think the first 300-400 was last year's, but we've used all we had ordered in, and we've ordered in more. And frankly, with what's happening statewide, it's required multiple calls for me to get it here, so. But we're in decent shape, if it lets up.
Well, thank you to your crew and you being able to see a lot of those things. We appreciate that and seeing the good roads that are being cleaned. And as Doug mentioned, it's a good thing for the county residents.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Keith.
Next item on the agenda is discussion and possible action to approve the minutes on February 15th, 2021 regular meeting.
So moved.
Motion by Jeff,
Second.
seconded by Nathan. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye. Any opposed? Action approves 5-0. Next item is correspondence. Jeff?
I had numerous, I had, I think it was counted 9 emails from, residents, around issues with the CAFO. I also had a meeting last Wednesday, with, some community members, Community Foundation, Santos and I attended on affordable housing in the county.
Workforce housing.
Workforce, yeah. There you go, sorry, don't wanna confuse the verbs. Workforce housing. And that's it.
I also had numerous emails and contacts from folks about the hog confinement operation. Also had contact from a resident with regard to the vaccine allocation to Muscatine County that seems to be disproportionately low. I also spoke to Senator Lofgren on that point, and apparently he's looking into that as well. So hopefully we get some answers and some better results there.
Scott?
I had numerous hog confinement, contacts as well. I also had a call, regarding, a resident that lives north of the bypass out there regarding, semis, using engine brakes, going down the bypass. And, I don't know, of course, that's gonna be city on that bypass, am I correct?
I think, is the city, is that in the,
What's
it
the
depends
state
on what,
highway?
Does the city
I don't
line-
believe it's in the city limits.
Yeah, I thought it was like the line.
It's a
Where
state
to go
road, but
down the hill, down towards G28?
north of the bypass, like, between, let's say, Bidwell and Tipton.
That's city,
City.
I'm sorry,
City,
city. Yeah,
The state maintains it.
Cities,
yeah.
Just
But
tiny
the
bit
point being
on the
that the
north side,
that the noise is
ordinance would have to-
coming out of the
the
city.
ordinance would
is
have
what
to
it
be a
is.
city
They might
ordinance.
have one.
And
I don't know.
that's something,
yeah.
I think that's something that maybe we need to look at in that regard, if there is an actual, engine brake ordinance.
Yeah, you see them, you'll see engine brake ordinance signs posted, and I don't know if the city of Muscatine has them, but, and that, not all of the bypasses, there are sections that are in the county as well, is that not?
Just,
true?
yeah, when you make the sweeping curve, Jeff, just beyond Mulberry, a little bit.
Almost back to
a little
Lucas.
bit of
Go
it sets
outside for
outside.
a little while,
Yeah,
but
then it's back in.
like before the hill,
Mhm.
there you're back in the city limits.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
there's very little of it that actually sets outside. But, anyway, that was a contact that I had, and, I think I need to pursue that to see if there is any type of city ordinance in that regard. And, if so, if it's enforceable out there for those
Maybe
residents.
something to forward to council to see if they wanna take action on it.
Or, yeah, something to bring up at the next joint meeting that we're looking at.
Sure. Otherwise, that's all I had in regards to correspondence.
Okay. Doug?
Correspondence, I got an email from Claudia Putnam opposing the hog confinement, and Chris Oberhaus that was on the call. I talked to him, he called me last night. The regular emails from Christy Roby Williams on COVID, and Brian Wright with the weather updates, and that's all I had for correspondence. And numerous emails that the rest of the board got.
Yes, I also wanna mention that I did get those amount of emails too from,
Oh, I forgot to mention, I apologize, and hopefully Eric is still on. I did get an email and a correspondence, and I think I shared, I got a note from Brian Steinman wanting to know what the county was gonna do with the Washington Street facility. So what I had done, I had asked Eric to maybe find out what exactly it was he was asking about. And Eric did some, and then I forwarded you all Eric's response to me, and I think the city is looking for, maybe Eric, you could clarify with the board. we have the Washington Street facility, apparently the Muscatine Fire Department is needing some kind of a training event, and they have room to hold the training event on the Park Avenue, Public Works could let them do it in the Park Avenue facility, but they have equipment in that facility that's the city stores that they would wanna house somewhere, and they'd asked if, and it's about a 30 or 45-day ask to house it in the property we vacated where search and rescue was on Washington Street. Me personally, I don't have any issues with that. I know Eric, I think he said there was still some search and rescue stuff there, maybe we could ask him to get it out, but, so I just think the board should, you know, it's something the board would need to decide, but, Eric, do you have any more to add on that, or did he go away?
I know he wasn't feeling the.
Yeah,
the
I know he's
greatest, so
had
he
some
may-
health
may be
issues
off.
today. So, I think I sent everybody the note,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
And it was like a month.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that either, Jeff, as long as everybody understands that it is a short-term situation.
Temporary.
Are they required to have their own liability insurance on? the
Well, there
stuff
was a
that they're
question Eric had
storing?
on insurance, and I don't know if he reached out to you, Nancy.
He did reach out to me. It sounds like what they're wanting to store is, from what Eric told me, is sandbags and things like that, in which case I'm not really concerned about the insurance issue
Yeah,
as far as
They're
property
probably
goes.
just empty bags, pallets of bags in case there's any spring flooding.
so I have no issue with it. I think the one comment that I had mentioned to Jeff was just the discussion that I knew we still had some items there that were stored there during the sheriff's quarters updates, and I don't know if those were completely removed
There's
yet.
two sections of that building. There's half that the sheriff's office used, and the other half was used by search and rescue.
Yeah,
So I think Eric thought that
The
the search and rescue portion.
sheriff's office does not have their stuff out yet, so we'd be talking about the search and rescue portion. Most
Okay.
of their stuff has been moved out of there. What's left is probably stuff that needs to be disposed of, and I believe that Eric contacted search and rescue and told them to get the rest of their stuff out within 30 days.
okay. So I have no concerns. Keith, you wanna comment on it?
I do.
Okay,
I understand that might be close, but they have a large, somewhat unused facility at Lake Park Boulevard. It used to be the DOT's.
yeah,
That's where they're talking about doing the training.
that's where.
That's where they have them currently. They're
Yeah.
trying to move stuff out of there.
Out of there, okay.
The Public Works wants to move the stuff out of there to store it on
Gotcha.
Washington Street. And I think, you know, I'm certain they have designs on Washington Street closer to their operation, but we can have that conversation long-term.
I think, yeah, we had had that potential discussion and still looking at in the summer, looking at, once we have everything moved out. I
You
still
might wanna
think,
consider if they're storing anything of value in the flood zone,
yeah,
if the county's gonna have liability.
Right. Cause that is in a floodplain, I believe. is it
we
not?
can ask those questions. I know we're just initially looking at the discussion. If the board sees that there's value in allowing them, I think it's good to continue to have good relations with the city and knowing that we're moving forward and still wanting to dispose the building and sell it of some sort or some nature. And we've
Yeah.
had that as a discussion, so I know that is still an item that we still intend to do, but currently right now, it's still storing some of those items, so. I know that isn't an action item, but I think it was just something.
Yeah, it's
the
not
board
on for
wanted.
action. I think maybe, could we just say that we would do, you know, maybe Nancy, what we'd do is direct staff to go ahead and kind of work out the details with the city and then bring it for action to the board next week.
Yep.
For formal approval of a, and I would definitely want to put a sunset on it so they understand that if we, you know, cause our intention is to vacate that property and dispose of it. We don't need to keep it collecting stuff.
Well, and I'm with Keith in the sense of we are, the possibility of having, some high water, might be
High
it
this
might
year.
be greater than lesser.
Good chance.
Such, yeah.
Well, and I will talk with the county attorney about potential liability waiver for the county if we move forward with this.
Yeah, okay. I'm sorry about that.
Okay, no, you're fine, that's good that I had that as a note on my items. So I just wanted to talk about the correspondence that I did receive. I did get, many emails. We did get the petition, wanted to comment. I did get Jan Knoll, Abby Hutchinson, Mike Hutchinson, Thomas Furlong, Claudia Putnam, as well as you did, and a few more that
I
we had
think
already
I
forwarded
put a
those.
list, I think I had, Nathan and I sat down, I think I had a pretty good list, and I gave
All
it
those are
to,
already
I
presented.
put it on the list so that everybody is noted, for the record. Cause I had Diane Furlong, Tom and Becky Furlong, Mike and Abigail Hutchison, Lori Bashore, Janice Knoll, Clean Air Muscatine, Claudia Putnam, Mary and John Danner, all had sent emails to the board.
Good. So those are noted into the minutes. I also had a same meeting that we talked about in regards to the workforce housing, and the potential of that has also created a couple of emails that we have reached out to the state, and now we are getting the meeting set up for March 23rd at the Merrill Hotel with Debbie Durham and Mike Bowles, and we are going to have that meeting, hopefully if the board can be there, in regards to this, and we're gonna have a presentation with the city and Mike Gould and Debbie Durham on the March 23rd. We feel that it's probably gonna be somewhere between 10 or 11 a.m. and probably be done by 2 p.m. at the latest for housing that we're trying to continue to work on, and some discussion in regards to what we've done in the past years with the city. And I think we're gonna also try to get some information on some downtown items that they're looking at. Shouldn't be too long, but I appreciate if you guys hopefully can be there. The next item, I got a couple emails back and forth from the mayor in regards to holding the joint meeting, in regards to one, doing the presentation with the housing, and the other potential with water and sewer service down to the deep lakes. That is gonna be the potential discussion on the agendas. I'm hoping that Carol can and have a follow-up with Nancy in regards to helping get an agenda set up in regards to that on March 30th, virtually online at 7 p.m.
30th?
March 30th, yes. 7 p.m.
It's gonna be a virtual?
It'll be a virtual. I do believe that there was a question if we wanted to have the school board or some of those members present. I have no issues or concerns on that. It's gonna be a public meeting, I'm sorry. So if they wanna be on, but it's primarily gonna be presentations in regards to the housing. So we'll already have hopefully some good information from what we've already got from Debbie. And then we'll have this meeting jointly, and I think it would be good. If you had any questions or comments that you guys feel that would be good to be on the agenda, please share them and we try to get them on. I also got the emails from Jeff from the Washington building, and I got emails from the CAFO in regards to the levy, and knowing that we're still needing to get some topics addressed with that in regards to trying to help communicate with the legislature what we're trying to do and the intentions on that. So the language is hopefully gonna pass through, but we'd like to follow up, and I'm gonna have a call with Mr. Lofgren on that later this morning. I also got emails that I reached out to following up on questions that we had on the vaccines, to Christy and Holly in regards to the timing from tier 1 to tier 2, and the communication that was shared with me is that they are continuing throughout this month with their weekly allocation, and hopefully being able to get into the tier 2 starting next month, which is a big question, because the communication piece is a big need that I think that their team is still working on, but it's difficult knowing that there's a lot of individuals that still want information on when their turn is up for the vaccine. That's all I had.
Okay.
The next item is committee reports. Jeff?
On the 18th, had both the E911 Service Board and the EMA Commission. We had our public hearing for our budgets. And then on the 2/19th, I had the Eastern Iowa Mental Health Region budget session, and I mentioned kind of the outcome there. We're gonna meet again this Friday and then again early March to try to have that certified by mid-March. So, not really sure what the recommendation out of there. My sense is they're probably gonna ask Muscatine County to reduce our levy, because the region has a history of following the legislation to the T, and the legislation is gonna cause some problems, so. I'm gonna, again, like I said, I'm gonna advocate that we ignore the Senate file, whatever. Most regions did this the last time and didn't wind up in the trouble we wound up in our region, because they simply just ignored the 40% cap at the county level. It just is a bad idea, because we continue to levy under what we are spending. We're just burning, capital reserves, and you don't wanna spend it down too fast, because we're not at a sustainable amount, so,
Okay,
that's it.
Nathan, any committee?
Yeah, last week I had the Veterans Affairs Commission. That was, I believe, the only one I had last week.
Okay, and I had no committees.
Nathan, do you know what day that meeting was?
That was on Tuesday, yes.
Scott?
On Wednesday the 17th, I had Riverbend Transit. Issues are still the same there as far as ridership and that is concerned. Also, they do have a number of driver voids, and trying to hire some more drivers, and using every imaginable way to try to attract new drivers, and with the push for the new $15 minimum wage coming down the pipe, that's going to affect this operation substantially as well. And then with the CARES 2 money coming from the feds, I can't remember the exact dollars going into all the public transit in the state of Iowa, but it's some substantial money that's gonna go to possibly to Riverbend Transit, and there's no match percentages required in that regard, but that's a double-edged sword as well, in the sense of you have to spend all these dollars in 1 year, or you lose these dollars. And yes, it's very nice to have some funding, but on the other side of the coin, you've got to be careful, because of, just like with grants or anything else, you have to, whatever these dollars are invested in, you have to be able to maintain going forward. So that's just something that I'm always concerned about. Also on Wednesday the 17th, Department of Health meeting, and as of the 17th, there were approximately 1,900 vaccines that were given out at that time, and to the point of being our numbers being low in regard to the amount of vaccines Muscatine County is getting, and I would agree with that. There are other counties out there that are getting far less than we are.
Sure.
Far less. So, yeah, that whole process is taking what I feel is a substantial amount of time to ramp up, but it is going the right direction. And I know the health department is really working hard at educating people on how to be able to get these vaccines for the people of need, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Doug?
On Wednesday, the 17th, we had Wilton Development, and these were all live meetings. None of these were virtual. Then on the 18th, we had our Fair Board meeting, and they announced that they're gonna horse race for the weekend of the fair. We're gonna have a live auction and a silent auction that day. And we're trying to work on a contract with the monster trucks. So another event that we're trying to add. To keep my fingers crossed that happens.
Good, good. Okay, next item is items of administration office. Discussion and possible action to approve the hire and request from the jail.
And that hiring request was included in your packet. The jail recently held interviews and testing to promote some individuals to sergeant. They're in need of multiple sergeants. So this is the first of the promotions that they're requesting to move this person from a corporal position to a sergeant position. I agree with their request for placement in grade 11.
Okay, so I'll move to approve.
Motion by Jeff,
Second.
seconded by Doug. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye. Opposed? Okay, hiring request, 5-0, approved. The next action was discussion that we had last week in regards to authorize the $5,000 credit limit for the county attorney's office.
Jim is in a hearing today, so he wasn't able to come in person for this. They're one of the few offices that up until now has not had a credit card. Jim is looking to get a credit card for his office. It would remain in the office. It wouldn't be for anybody to carry, and they would mostly use it for situations when they need to bring a witness in and they need to pay for hotel rooms and those sorts of things, when they cannot direct bill.
So I would move the approval.
Motion by Jeff, seconded by Scott. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye. Opposed? Action passes 5-0. Any other items?
Just one other item I wanted to report to you, as a follow-up to the settlement for the lawsuit that we discussed last week. I have confirmed with ICAP that we had already covered our $1,000 deductible, so we will not have another cost on top of that, just $1,000 in property, for the property, vehicle damage that we've already covered.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Now is the item, receive items from the county employees. Any county employees on or in public that want to speak? Keith, go ahead.
Apologize, I missed one item in my other. Last week, I spoke well of the DOT and their handling of some funds. Now I'm here to report that I spoke too quickly. I attended virtually the county engineers executive board meeting Friday. And I want to say, I've been on the nominating and awards committee for 14 years. And we get to choose who these officers are, and our officers have done a marvelous job. I mean marvelous. And I can provide you with pages of documentation if you want to read what they've passed on to the commissioners. Several of them know their highway commissioners personally. But what I learned, the part that I reported to you on, that was a good thing. But bridge funds are a separate item. There has been an influx of bridge funds. The federal laws that started divvying this up was on the square feet of deficient bridge deck. And they were looking, if you looked at the state of Iowa, the state bridges, that would be zero, and the state would have gotten zero money. But, you know, we are one of the leaders in the nation in the rural areas of deficient bridges. So the county engineers, I thought, had put together an excellent argument of why the and the cities would fall in there too, why the non-state roads, why the cities and counties should get a bigger chunk of this based on their deficient bridges. And the county engineers even offered up the state, you can take this chunk that the bill provided if you had none in your state, you got like $8 million. You can have that. Well, they took the lion's share. That's the short of it. That's not even the point that should be of most interest to you folks. What should be interest to you is there's a new federal highway bill coming out. They'll look at how the monies, all that federal money is getting divided up again. And in discussions with the DOT, he was pretty well threatened. Well, remember, there's a new federal highway bill coming. And they're the people that have the voice in Washington, not us. I'm just saying the time will come when you all will probably need to talk to a state legislator or a state senator and tell them we don't need to be taking less out here in rural Iowa. I just, that time's coming. I hinted at it. I was glad they kept the other informed, but there were veiled threats there that, well, we'll change the formula again, we'll take even more, you take even less. So, like I said, I spoke too soon, and, you know, that's a ways off, but just remember that the time will come. And I'm telling you that there are, you know, probably 75% or more of the counties in this state are poorer than this county. It'll just devastate them if they start getting even less. But sure as heck, they rammed that one through. That's already a done deal. They already rammed that through the Highway Commission. And at least the ones that county engineers knew personally did kind of object in there, but that's what I want you to know about that. When you'll hear again soon, if they start looking at how do we slice the pie. We've lost every time they've ever had that discussion, and we've been told to love our loss, or they could have took more. So.
Keith, where do we find, who's on the highway commission? Is that listed under the legislative,
Well, that's on the DOT's website.
on their website? Okay,
So,
I'll go look. I wanna make sure rural Iowa has a good representation in that mix,
yeah,
cause it sounds like we don't.
I think there are a few. I think not a majority.
Yeah, that's the problem.
So,
Always rural Iowa always loses.
then the other item I had, which is absolutely unrelated to roads, but at the Veterans Affairs Commission, we have often, or we've more than once discussed, we'd like to see, and I hate, I wasn't sent here to speak for those folks, but we'd like to see you recite the pledge before your meetings. We do that before all of our Veterans Affairs Committee meetings, so that's just something we could all ponder. That's all I have.
Thank you, Keith.
Thanks.
Any other county employees online that would like to speak? Okay, hearing none, the next item is receive comments from the public.
This is the time you can speak.
Yep. You can speak again, yes.
So this is Chad Furlong.
Yeah, if you could come up real quick.
That way they can get you on the TV, Chad.
Yeah, thanks for one more round of enduring. Chad Furlong with Arden Creek. I want to follow up on our previous discussion. Just for the record, strongly disagree with the recommendation today from the board. Appreciate Mr. Sacito's thought of allowing more time, which was not passed. I would say the reason for my speaking again is to highlight, I believe the process is broken for notification and communication sharing. I personally, as the owner of this establishment, found out on February 15th at 2 o'clock about the proposal. So I have to be more proactive in my own stance, but I would invite the board to think about other ways to promote the sharing and notification of these type of situations. Within 2 hours, I had found Mr. O'Toole's cell phone number and reached out to him to open up a bridge of communication at 4 o'clock that day on the 15th. Still have not received any information from him, was not sharing of any of the plans I saw floating around here today as the owner of that. So those mechanisms appear not to be in place, and if I'm mistaken, please help me understand where to go get that. But it seems not to be productive to be the owner of a business within a few miles away from a large operation and to not have known about it. So I wanted to make those comments as part of record, and appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Chad. Any other comments from the public? Okay, any other comments from board members prior to our motion to adjourn? Okay, hearing none, meeting is adjourned.